In the 10th month of my fiancé carrying the child of his white moonlight, the truth began to surface. The woman finally realized something was wrong. He asked his sister about it. Lately, I've been busy keeping a dozen people company while she nurtures the fetus. Hasn't there been any constant commotion? His sister was completely baffled. Fu Ting had already announced the annulment long ago. She even packed up your things and sent them back. You didn't know! The woman suddenly froze. Her face turned deathly pale. She didn't know that on the day I was discharged from the hospital, I overheard a conversation between her and her sister. Liu Cixi, are you out of your mind? Did you really hide it from Fu Ting and secretly gave his bone marrow to Zhang Yiter? Liu Qingqing rushed into the hospital room, pointed at Liu Cixi, who was sitting on the sofa, and cursed her out. Liu Cixi tilted her head slightly. Her delicate and beautiful face wrote helplessness into her hoarse voice. Only Fu Ting and Yita were a bone marrow match. I had no other choice. Liu Qingqing picked up Fu Ting's infection report from the table, the hospitalization record spanning over half a year. She glanced at them and was furious beyond words. No other choice. You clearly knew Ting's body was weak, yet you lied to him, saying it was just a stomach illness, and still made him take this risk. I'm honestly baffled. Did Zhang Yiter cast a spell on you? Back then, to make him smile, you raced cars and ended up paralyzed for 5 years. During those 5 years, it was Fu Ting who stayed by your side. Now that you're healthy again, Zhang Yiter got sick and was dumped back to the country. You hid it from Fu Ting and gave his bone marrow to Zhang Yiter. Half a year has passed. Zhang Yiter just recovered, and now you're messing around with him, trying for a test tube baby. At the entrance of the hospital room, I had just completed the discharge paperwork. When I heard Liu Qingqing's furious words, the hand I had on the wall clenched tightly. The smile on my face froze, and I felt like I'd plunged into an icy abyss. Half an hour earlier, the doctor had informed me that my infection had completely healed after surgery, and I could be discharged. Liu Cixi had proposed to me on the spot. I cried tears of joy, and even posted on my social media that today was the happiest day of my life. Inside the hospital room, Liu Cixi hung her head low. Fine strands of black hair obscured her ink-dark eyes. Her expression couldn't be clearly seen. Sis, you helped me keep the news under wraps. Don't let Fu Ting find out. Yita's grandmother doesn't have much time left. Her only wish is to hold his child in her arms before she passes. I don't want him to have regrets. Liu Qingqing stared, eyes wide. Her beautiful and delicate face was burning with rage. And what about Fu Ting? Everyone in our circle knows. He's been in love with you for 8 whole years. I remember it crystal clear. 8 years ago, Zhang Yita confessed to the second Li family daughter and was rejected. You, trying to stand up for Zhang Yiter, deliberately approached Fu Ting and flirted with him. Even the Li family's youngest, who liked Fu Ting more, saw right through you. Now you're carrying Zhang Yita's child. Fu Ting has been with you for 8 years. What do you expect him to do? Liu Cixi lowered her eyes for a long moment, then finally spoke in a soft voice, saying everything's been arranged. Fu Ting will never know in his lifetime that the child I carry belongs to Yiter. As for the future, after these 8 years, I've gotten used to having him in my life. I will marry him. I didn't hear the rest of what was said. Just as a nurse happened to walk toward the hospital room, I lowered my head, pretending I had just returned. The two inside the room looked at each other in stunned silence. Liu Qingqing pulled Liu Cixi away. On the way home, Liu Cixi discussed the wedding details with me, but I didn't take in a single word. I stared out at the receding skyscrapers, feeling nothing but a deep chill across my whole body. I first met Liu Cixi when I was 15, at a party thrown by my parents and their business partners. A single glimpse of her back then stunned me beyond words. That cold and noble look on the young girl's face has lingered in my mind ever since. At 16, I entered a racing competition under the name Wu Yin and saved Liu Cixi's 4th life. That was the beginning of a long, silent infatuation. At 20, Li Jiwei pursued me. That same year, Liu Cixi attended a party hosted by my friend. That night, she added me on WeChat of her own accord. I was happy the entire evening because of it. That same year, I learned Liu Cixi had someone she considered her white moonlight Zhang Yida. But Zhang Yida was naturally freedom-loving. He had dated over a dozen girls, but never liked Liu Cixi. At 21, Liu Cixi confessed her feelings to me, and I agreed to be with her. At 22, Liu Cixi had a racing accident and was rushed to the hospital. The next day, the doctor announced that she would be disabled. That year, the once disabled Liu Cixi seemed like a different person. Her temper turned dark and irritable. It was out of love for her that I refused to move abroad with my parents and chose to stay behind to take care of her. At 27, Liu Cixi's legs fully recovered. Master Liu publicly declared that the Liu family would now be led by her. The girl was as proud and radiant as a spring breeze. That same year, I unexpectedly fainted at home. When I woke up, the doctor told me I had a stomach illness and needed to be hospitalized for surgery. Now that I think back on it carefully, what I thought was a love granted by fate was filled with lies from the very beginning. Over half a year ago, I had so much blood drawn in the hospital. Liu Cixi told me it was for tests, but it turned out she lied, so I would donate bone marrow to Zhang Yi. As my car slowly entered the villa community, it was midnight. Liu Cixi's phone rang. I glanced at the caller ID. It was Yeater, the adorable one. Liu Cixi casually slid her finger to decline the call. Her slender fingers gently tapped the screen. Not long after, she got up and left in a hurry. I walked over to the window. In the endless darkness, that Bentley slowly disappeared into the distance. I dialed my mother's number and said, "Mom, I've made up my mind. I agreed to marry Lin from the Su family. In 7 days, I'll go straight from the airport to register the marriage with him." My mother must have guessed what her son had been through. She offered comforting words and patiently talked it through with me. "If you're certain, Ting, the Fu family isn't what it used to be. This alliance is no small matter. Even though the Su and Liu families are separated by thousands of miles, they've been enemies for generations, as incompatible as fire and water. Once you marry into the Su family, they may require you to sever all ties with the Liu family." On the other end of the line, I lowered my tear-filled eyes. 6 years ago, the Fu family moved our company abroad after our business grew, and we've been based overseas ever since. But not long after relocating, the Fu family encountered a financial crisis. The Su family, who also lived abroad, repeatedly expressed interest in a marriage alliance with us, but my parents knew how much I loved Liu Cixi and never considered sacrificing my marriage for the company's survival. But now, I want nothing more to do with Liu Cixi ever again. An alliance with the Su family is the best choice. Mom, I've made up my mind. I don't ever want to see Liu Cixi again in this lifetime. On the other end of the line, my mother was silent for a few seconds. "All right then, tomorrow your father and I will go to the Su family to discuss the engagement." I didn't sleep at all that night. Early the next morning, Liu Cixi still hadn't come back. She only sent a message saying, "Fu Ting, there's a problem at the company. I need to go on a 3-day business trip." I didn't reply. Instead, I booked a plane ticket for a flight 7 days later to France and started packing my things. I had been living with Liu Cixi for the past few years, so I had quite a lot of stuff. Now that the Fu family's financial situation is poor, I listed everything that could be sold online. By evening, I received a message from a stranger on social media. A notification popped up with the words "Reminder for Fu Ting." I tapped on the stranger's profile picture. It was a newly issued pregnancy test report. The nickname read Yida, blissfully expecting. The account under Zhang Yida's name was freshly created and private. He didn't dare make a scene about Liu Cixi's pregnancy ceremony, and I was the only friend he had added. A minute later, Zhang Yida shared a new TikTok video with me. It was a set of real-time photos of him accompanying Liu Cixi for her prenatal checkup. The caption was written with tender affection. Third mommy of the Yida fortune. I could read right through his little tricks. So I tapped a heart and commented curtly. Now that my bone marrow disease is cured, he dares to provoke me again. How does my marrow taste, Zhang Yida? The next day, I went to say goodbye to my close brothers one by one. On the way, I also delivered my luxury goods to the buyers who had made offers. On the way home, I received a second TikTok shared by Zhang Yida. Once again, it was just a few photos, this time of him helping Liu Cixi pick out maternity clothes. Pink and white. Every maternity outfit looked fashionable and elegant. I scrolled back to the previous post and saw that Zhang Yida had replied to my comment. With infuriating arrogance, I never begged you to donate bone marrow to me. It was Sister Cixi who was worried. She forced me to accept it. I sneered and replied with a single comma. On the third day, I sold all the gifts I'd given Liu Cixi over the years. Those dozen or so shirts, shoes and watches were all sold off. That afternoon, Liu Cixi finally returned. She glanced at the now somewhat empty bedroom and the unfamiliar black suitcase sitting there. Her thick brows furrowed tightly. Why does the house feel so empty? The shirts you gave me are gone. Everything was fine. Why did you suddenly buy a suitcase? My gaze lowered slightly, and I casually made up an excuse. Those shirts were out of fashion. I threw them away recently. I've been thinking about traveling. Then I let the subject drop. Maybe Cixi thought I was upset because she hadn't been with me for 3 days. She pulled out something she had clearly prepared in advance. A purchase agreement for a limited edition Lamborghini supercar. Work's been hectic these past few days, so I ordered a supercar for you. I'll go with you to pick it up. I looked at the purchase contract with calm eyes. Unlike other men, I never cared for watches. Only supercars held my interest, and this Lamborghini model was exactly the one I'd been eyeing lately. Liu Cixi had customized it in black and pink, which happened to be my favorite color combo. Even the seats were embroidered with my favorite anime character, Doraemon. Over the past 8 years, Liu Cixi remembered every single one of my preferences. If I hadn't overheard her conversation with Liu chinking outside the hospital room, I probably would have been deeply moved right now and full of gratitude. But instead, I quietly set the contract aside. Liu Cixi, not realizing how far she'd gone, pinched my fair cheeks playfully, still mad at me. There's a party tonight. Come with me to clear your head. I was just about to say no, but Liu Cixi had already grabbed my hand and led me downstairs. The Bentley had just started moving when Liu Cixi's phone rang again. It was a call from Yida, the adorable one. I didn't catch everything he said, but I vaguely heard, "Cixi, help me." Liu Cixi's pretty face tensed immediately. She tapped the screen and somehow pulled up Zhang Yida's live location, then swiftly turned the car around. We're skipping the party. Yida's been kidnapped. I have to go save him. Liu Cixi floored the accelerator, speeding through more than 10 red lights in a row. 20 minutes later, she locked onto the black sedan in front of us and confirmed that Zhang Yida was inside. Narrowing her eyes, she slammed the gas pedal. With a loud crash, the black sedan's rear crumpled instantly. At the same time, the Bentley's front passenger seat was slammed by another of Zhang Yida's accomplices. They rammed into us with brutal force. I couldn't dodge in time. Blood burst from my head on impact. The crimson liquid streamed from my scalp, sliding down my pale cheeks. My head throbbed violently against the pavement, as if 10,000 needles were piercing straight into my heart. The pain was so intense I couldn't speak for a long time, even after such a violent crash in the front seat. Liu Cixi didn't spare me a single glance. Her eyes remained locked on Zhang Yida in the black sedan. After ramming the car 3 more times, the black vehicle was finally forced to a stop. The people inside quickly fled into an accomplice's car. Liu Cixi shoved the door open and scooped Zhang Yida into her arms from the back seat. For the first time, her dark eyes showed a flicker of panic. Are you frightened out of your mind? Are you hurt anywhere? Zhang Yide nestled into Liu Cici's arms. Turning his face slightly, cheeks flushed red, he cried as if his heart was breaking. It was one of my father's business enemies. They only slapped me once. It's really no big deal. But that single mention of his parents made Liu Cici's heart twist with pain. How can you say it's no big deal? Even all these years abroad, you've been spoiled and pampered by me. When have you ever gone through something like this? It's all because I arrived too late. I was so scared. Don't be afraid, it's my fault. I'm taking you for a full-body checkup right now. Liu Cici helped Zhang Yide into the Bentley's back seat and reached the hospital in under 5 minutes. Once parked, she carried Zhang Yide into the emergency room. The entire time, she didn't once notice me in the front seat. Eyes reddened. The blood on my head was so much it was terrifying. I watched their backs as they walked away and tilted my head up, refusing to let the tears fall. Fighting the pain, I pushed open the door and staggered unsteadily toward the hospital entrance. Heavy rain began to pour at dusk. I didn't bother to raise my hand to shield it, letting the rain soak into my open wounds. A nurse at the triage desk gasped when she saw me. She rushed to clean and dress my wounds, then led me through a round of examinations. An hour later, my body, weak and exhausted, had finally finished all the tests. Only then did I have a moment to pick up my phone. The screen showed more than a dozen missed calls, all from Liu Cici. I didn't hesitate and turned my phone off immediately, knowing I'd be hooked up to Infodrip till midnight. I simply asked the nurse to prepare a hospital room for me. Half dazed, I found myself lost in memories. Ever since Liu Cici became disabled, I'd attended countless business banquets in her place. All those toasts and pleasantries. At one such banquet, two CEOs clashed over differing views and flipped the table on the spot. Plates crashed to the floor in an instant. A shard of shattered ceramic bounced up and cut my wrist. When Liu Cici found out, she rushed over immediately. Right then and there, she had her assistant sever all business ties with both companies and took me to the hospital in a panic to treat my wound. I thought it was a bit of an overreaction, but Liu Cici gently comforted me, saying, "Fu Ting, you're the most important man in my life. I don't ever want to see even a scratch on you. A man should be spotless from head to toe. That way, clothes and jewelry will suit you better." But now here I was, face covered in blood, and she turned a blind eye to me for the sake of another man. She once promised never to let me get hurt, yet she let me risk my life to donate bone marrow to someone else. Even the matters of marriage and children, she kept secret from me and quietly did them with someone else. Before falling asleep, I saw Yide, blissfully expecting, had posted a new TikTok. It showed Liu Cici kneeling to wash his feet, just to coax him to sleep. I replayed that video over and over. A deep, uneasy feeling rose in my chest, and I couldn't sleep a wink all night. But early in the morning, I reluctantly made my way back home. The moment I stepped into the villa, Uncle Chen, the butler, wore a grim expression. "Sir and Madam are waiting for you by the warrior. He's in a foul mood." I headed toward the warrior. From afar, I saw Liu Cici fussing over Zhang Yide. Zhang Yide was smoking quietly. Tears streamed down his face, making him look pitiful. The moment Liu Cici saw me finally return, the fury on her face could no longer be contained. A chill seemed to radiate from her whole body. "You deliberately revealed Yide's whereabouts to the enemies of his father." I stumbled back a step. My eyes shifted to Zhang Yide on the sofa. He tilted his head and sneered at me sideways, a smug smile playing on his thin lips. In that instant, I understood everything. I rubbed my temples, frustration bubbling inside me. I don't even know who his father's enemies are, so how could I have leaked his whereabouts? Liu Cici's face darkened. She pulled out a stack of photos and flung them at me. "Then how do you explain these photos of you meeting with Uncle Jiang's enemies? Tell me what this is about." I glanced down at the photos on the table. A chill crept into my heart. They were from a few days ago when I was selling secondhand luxury goods. Photos taken when I met the bear in a cafe. No wonder that man was so agreeable. Didn't even try to bargain with me. Only asked to meet in a cafe. Seeing that I said nothing, Liu Cixi assumed my silence was an admission. Her delicate face turned dark and terrifying. Haven't I told you before? No matter what happens outside, between Yida and me, between Liu Yunfei and me, we've always been innocent. There's never been anything between us. I've always cared only for Yida. He's truly a kind person. And you've been with me for 8 years. During those 8 years, you know how I treated you. That should be clear in your heart. Besides, I even proposed to you a few days ago. Yet you still hurt him and made things difficult for him like this. How could you justify that? As I listened to her words, my heart ached like it had been pierced by needles. In our 8 years together, there was a year she deliberately pursued me to stand up for Zhang Yida, and 5 years during which she was disabled. I was the one who cared for her during those 5 years of her disability. She battled depression, broke down, and cried into the night. All of it happened because, back then, to satisfy Zhang Yida's vanity, she risked her life racing. But all that pain caused by Zhang Yida, she had completely forgotten. In those 5 years, to help her recover better, I secretly enrolled in rehabilitation studies. I massaged her legs day and night, not missing a single day. Back then, her moods were often gloomy. I even consulted the best early morning rehab experts to learn how to soothe the emotions of disabled patients. All those efforts I poured in, she remembered none of it. It was truly ironic. What I really wanted to ask was, if she only saw Zhang Yida as a younger brother, then why was she doing IVF with her little brother? Yes, these 8 years, how did you treat me? And how did you treat him? Only in the past few days have I figured it out. Liu Cixi's expression finally softened a little. What exactly are you trying to do? I didn't want to argue with her. I pointed to the bandage on my forehead and gave a bitter laugh. Yesterday when he was kidnapped, I was also injured in the head, got 5 stitches. I must have been foolish enough to think hurting myself would somehow hurt him too. Even though I clearly stated that I was injured, Liu Cixi now had her entire heart set on Zhang Yida. She still didn't believe me, not even a little. I looked at her tense jawline and felt genuinely relieved that I would be leaving in 3 days. Liu Cixi, since you've already decided I did it, then go ahead and tell me how you want to settle this. It's not that I don't believe you. We've known each other for 16 years and 7 months, Yida and I. He has never once lied to anyone. Liu Cixi paused and furrowed her brows deeply, as if she had made up her mind to settle this matter once and for all. Feuding, you made Yida cry. You're the one who has to cheer him up. Zhang Yida, who had been silent this whole time, suddenly threw the ring and his hand into the warrior pool. He let out a loud gasp. Cixi, the ring you gave me just slipped and fell into the pool. He turned to me with a pointed gaze. His thin lips curled high with satisfaction. With a look of pure provocation, he said, how about this? No need to comfort me anymore. Just pick up that ring, and I'll for everything you've done to hurt me. It was just the beginning of winter. The water in the pool was bone-chillingly cold. The wound on my head still hadn't fully healed. I lowered my gaze to Liu Cixi, who remained seated. She kept her eyes down, so I couldn't see into her eyes. Her slender fingers tapped lightly on the table. That cold, proud head never once lifted. She didn't spare me even a glance. In that moment, it felt like something had pierced straight through my heart. A searing, needling pain spread out densely. Suddenly, I remembered. Half a year after Liu Cixi was diagnosed as disabled, old Master Liu came to visit her in the hospital. When he learned that her chances of recovery were slim, he began searching for another heir. That very night, Liu Cixi disappeared from her hospital room. When I found her, she was pushing her wheelchair straight into the raging sea, letting the cold waves lap up to her chest. I panicked and rushed to stop her, but she shoved me away. Don't pretend to care about me. You're just my boyfriend. You're not my husband. If you really want to control me, then swim a lap in this stormy sea right now, and I'll do whatever you say from now on. I stood there, stunned, staring at her. Truth is, I really wanted to tell her. I wasn't pretending at all. I genuinely wanted to be her husband. So even though I couldn't swim, I didn't hesitate, turned around and dove into the ocean. The waves were fierce and the wind howled. Soon, I was pulled deep into the sea, losing all consciousness. When I opened my eyes again, I saw Cece's worried face swimming before me. Her expression was as pale as death, tension written all over her face. Why didn't you tell me you couldn't swim? Are you out of your mind? You can't swim, yet you still jumped in. I tried to sneak a glance at her, my voice hoarse as I spoke. Cece, even if your legs never heal for the rest of your life, I still want to marry you. I love you even more than you can possibly imagine. Since then, Cece never took me to the beach again. She even forbade water to be poured into the pool at home. It was me who thought an empty pool felt strange, so she reluctantly agreed to let the maids refill and change the water every day. Yet now she dared to suggest this. I tugged at the corners of my lips, my face calm and unreadable. You want me to pick up the ring, right? Fine, I'll go get it. As I spoke, I didn't even bother taking off my coat, just turned and jumped into the pool. The icy water soaked through my skin, making me shiver all over. I slowly sank down. An overwhelming fear engulfed me, but I clenched my teeth and refused to cry for help. Soon enough, a bloom of red blood spread out in the pool. The butler nearby cried out, "My God!" His head wounds opened up again. Cece threw off her coat, jumped into the pool and pulled me out. She screamed in fury, "That's enough. Why do you have to be so extreme? Couldn't you have just turned around and walked away?" I tilted my head back, my eyes fixed on the diamond ring at the bottom of the pool. Didn't you say I had to make her happy? Well, like this. Your precious white moonlight should be satisfied now, shouldn't she? Cece frowned in pain. That delicate and beautiful face now looked as dark and terrifying as a thunderstorm. How many times have I told you? I really only see Yida as a younger brother. The Zhang family isn't exactly lacking in the timber business either. If others find out about what you've done, what will they say about you? These days, public opinion isn't so easy to control. I told you to comfort him, to help him calm down. Everything I did was for your own good. Cece's voice carried a tender affection, as if she truly had my best interests at heart. But the more I listened, the angrier I became. I laughed and said, "So now it's hard to control the narrative. Back then, even when the proud heir of the Liu family became disabled from street racing because of Zhang Yida, didn't you still manage to forcefully suppress the story?" Zhang Yida stirred up trouble every which way. He bullied others at school, always targeting the weak, and Zhang family was never well off. Yet all these years, they've leaned on the Liu family, living a smooth and easy life under your protection. Even that matter with them doing IVF to have a child was kept tightly hidden by him. And now, even if he really did orchestrate a kidnapping, it was something he brought upon himself. But suddenly you're here telling me public opinion is hard to manage. In the end, it's always about you. In Cece's heart, I'll never compare to Zhang Yida. I didn't want to say another word to Cece. I took off my soaked black coat and walked alone toward the living room. After just a few steps, maybe from too much blood loss in my head, I suddenly blacked out and collapsed. Cece's face changed instantly. She rushed over to me in a panic. Just as she was about to lift me up, Zhang Yida suddenly bent down and crouched on the floor, crying so hard it was like petals falling in the rain. "Cece, my stomach hurts so much. Help me upstairs to lie down for a bit." Cece froze in place. She retracted the hands that were about to pick me up, then turned and scooped Zhang Yida into her arms. Letting my head slam hard against the floor, she looked to the butler beside her and left behind just one sentence: "Uncle Chen, take Mr. Song to the hospital." When I opened my eyes again, I saw a pair of worried black eyes gazing at me. Liu Cixi called my name to wake me, then rushed out to call the doctor. Only after confirming I was fine did she finally breathe a sigh of relief. I happened to notice there was now a prayer bead bracelet on my left wrist. It looked exactly like the one Liu Cixi always wore. Her assistant smiled beside me and said, "Sir, you were unconscious for so long. President Liu was so worried. She passed on the prayer beads she's worn for over a decade to you. Last night, she even made a vow before the Buddha that as long as you woke up safely, she would give up meat for life and only eat vegetarian, and never touch cigarettes again." I frowned, feeling a little put off, and took off the beads from my wrist, holding them out to Liu Cixi. "You don't have to change your habits for me." But Liu Cixi didn't take them back. Instead, she put the prayer beads back on my wrist herself. She said back when I was disabled, "Didn't you make a similar vow too?" My heart quietly trembled. In the second year after Liu Cixi's accident, I'd heard that Lingshuan Temple in Lin City was very spiritual. Grandfather brought her there to make a wish. That day before the Buddha, I made a vow that I would give up everything I had in exchange for Liu Cixi's health. And Liu Cixi also made a wish in front of the Buddha that 5 years later, I would be her groom. Back then, I saw the handwritten wish she tied to the tree. She smiled with reddened eyes and held me close, comforting me for a long time. That was one of the rare times when Liu Cixi's eyes held only me. It all comes down to this: only when Zhang Yide wasn't around did Liu Cixi's eyes truly fall on me. Now that Zhang Yide had returned to the country, Liu Cixi's gaze would never land on me again. I looked at Liu Cixi's delicate face as if waiting for praise. Her features softened like polished jade, and I felt a bit drowsy. When I opened my eyes again, it was already afternoon. I got up intending to ask the doctor when I could be discharged. But before I could open the door, I heard voices from the hallway. Liu Cixi and Liu Qingqing were speaking. "So, when are you planning to hold the wedding with feuding?" Liu Qingqing's puzzled voice rang out, and Liu Cixi's cheeks turned red. She casually mentioned last time that she had brought it up with him. She said she planned to hold the wedding at the end of the month. Then she gently nodded again, reminding that this wedding must be grand and impressive. The bride price must be generous, never less but only more. Feuding already donated bone marrow to your childhood sweetheart. We absolutely can't shortchange him when it comes to the dowry. Then, as if thinking of something, Liu Qingqing suddenly changed the tone of the conversation. She said, "How coincidental. You're getting married this month. And I heard someone from the Qiu family and Su family is also getting married soon. And the groom's name is also feuding." Hearing that, I quickly pushed the door open. I cleared my throat twice. The two women instantly stopped talking. That night, the doctor announced I could be discharged. After returning home, I received a friend request. The sender typed just 3 characters: Su Wanru. I blinked, guessing she might be the one I was supposed to marry. I accepted the request. As soon as I did, she sent me a dowry list. It was a small notebook, filled from cover to cover with a dense list of dowry items. I skimmed over it and felt like the list went on forever. Then Su Wanru sent me to more messages. "This is the dowry list. Take a look and see if you're satisfied. I heard from the gynecologist that your flight is the day after tomorrow, and you'll arrive at the airport the morning after that. At that time, feuding and I will come pick you up together." I paused for a few seconds to think, then replied the dowry is enough. Thankfully, she didn't respond again. That entire evening, Liu Cixi kept trying to start conversations with me, but I couldn't summon any interest. She thought I was still angry about what had happened before. So to cheer me up, she asked her assistant to prepare a bachelor party for the next day, a pre-wedding party just for me. By the next day, everyone in our circle knew it was Liu Cixi's pre-wedding bachelor celebration. That night, many people showed up. Just as I arrived at the party, Liu Cixi wrapped her arm around my waist and pulled out 2 car purchase contracts. She handed me one of them first. Her dark eyes deep and unreadable. She said the last supercar just didn't seem to suit you, so I ordered you a new one over the past couple of days. Then she passed the original Lamborghini contract to Zhang Yide, who was dressed pitifully yet delicately. She said, "Yide, this car was originally meant for your brother, but now that he has a new one, this one is yours. Sorry if it feels like a bit of a downgrade." Zhang Yide accepted the contract with wild joy, barely able to contain his smug smile. "It's totally fine. Today is all about my brother." Though he said that anyone with eyes could see clearly, the Lamborghini Liu Cixi gave Zhang Yide was a nationally limited edition supercar, while the one she gave me was just a regular luxury sports car, only slightly more expensive than average. Some guests nearby couldn't help whispering, "Is Cixi really marrying Feuding? This is clearly supposed to be Feuding's bachelor party. So why is Zhang Yide getting gifts instead?" So many excuses just to hand over that nationally limited edition supercar to Zhang Yide. Everyone knows how much Feuding loves cars. Isn't Zhang Yide doing this just to get under his skin? I heard Zhang Yide is an amazing racer. I've got insider info. He's actually the legendary race car driver Wu Ying. Cixi originally fell for him because Wu Ying once saved her life on the racetrack. Sitting in the corner, listening quietly to their chatter, I furrowed my brows slightly. Wu Ying, that was me. Before I could think more about it, a bunch of people, done analyzing the situation, came over to Zhang Yide with their wine glasses, showering him with praise. "Cixi treats you really well, Yide. She gave you such an expensive sports car without a second thought. That white shirt of yours looks amazing. It makes you look like a true prince. I heard you race cars. You're supposed to be incredible at it. You're both sweet and tough. A perfect match for Cixi." More and more people started flattering Zhang Yide. Everyone seemed to forget that today was supposed to be about me. An hour passed by. The atmosphere gradually turned lively. Some people started singing. Others got busy playing games. Zhang Yide stayed seated next to Liu Cixi the whole time. His gaze never left her for a moment. When Liu Cixi pouted and said she wanted crab, Zhang Yide held back his impatience and lowered his voice, coaxing her gently. "You're pregnant, you can't eat that. Wait until after the baby's born. Then I'll buy it for you again." Zhang Yide joked quietly under the red candles. Liu Cixi let out a soft sigh. She pulled out an unlimited black card from her wallet and handed it to him. That unlimited black card quickly caused quite a stir. I couldn't help but think, Cixi still hasn't gotten over Zhang Yide, has she? They say the current one can never beat the white moonlight. Turns out it's all true. Amid the rising chatter, I sat quietly in the corner, keeping my head down, playing on my phone, as if none of the noise around me had anything to do with me. Zhang Yide glanced around the room, and his eyes eventually landed in the corner, on me. He walked over, his shoes crunching on crumbs, his face full of smugness. This was supposed to be your and Cici's pre-wedding bachelor party, but I stole all the spotlight. Everyone's crowding around me, trying to please me. You must be feeling pretty annoyed. But no matter how frustrated you are, you'll just have to swallow it. After all, even if you were the one who stayed by Cici's side during those 5 hardest years, so what? The moment I show up in front of her, she still loves me the most. I knew Zhang Yide was trying to provoke me, but I'd already cried all my tears the day I left the hospital. When he saw I didn't respond, a strange look flickered in his eyes. His gaze dropped to the jade bracelet on my wrist, the one made of warm stone, and a flash of jealousy passed through his eyes. Suddenly, he snatched it from me. "Are you crazy? What are you doing?" I raised my hand to grab it back, but Zhang Yide secretly used force. His mother shouted from the bathroom, and I saw a surge of resentment in his eyes, along with unwillingness as he said, "I heard this was a gift from Madame Liu, for you as her future son-in-law." I looked at him clearly, just about to speak, when Zhang Yide suddenly shoved the bracelet into his mouth, tearing at the corner of his lips until they split. A line of blood opened up. Bright red blood dripped from the edge of his mouth. Zhang Yide collapsed weakly onto the floor. The jade bracelet clattered to the ground. He looked up and cried, "Brother, I just thought the bracelet Liu Yi gave you was beautiful. Why did you suddenly rip it out of my mouth? My mouth hurts so much. Woo-woo." Before I could react, a black figure appeared out of nowhere, and I was shoved hard. I couldn't keep my balance, and fell to the floor with a heavy thud, crashing into a nearby table, the one holding the giant celebration cake. The wound on my head split open again, and blood started to seep out. The cake slid down onto me, soft and sticky all over. The pain stung the corners of my eyes. I looked up at Liu Cece running toward us. She didn't even glance at me. She just picked up a napkin and gently wiped the blood off Zhang Yide's mouth, her face full of heartache. That was when I finally understood what act Zhang Yide had been putting on. I wiped the sticky cream from my face, picked up the jade bracelet from the floor, and held it out to Zhang Yide. Just when Liu Cece thought I was trying to provoke him, and was about to lose her temper, I grabbed Zhang Yide's wrist. I placed the jade bracelet back on his wrist. "This was a gift from Aunt Liu. You seem to like it a lot, don't you? Then it's yours now." Zhang Yide was stunned, his act of pity completely forgotten. He even forgot to keep pretending. Cece's expression turned sour with jealousy. She couldn't figure out what I was trying to do. "This was a birthday gift from my mother to you. Only a son-in-law of the Liu family is allowed to wear it." I stood up and said coldly, since he touched it, "It's dirty now. I don't want it anymore." After saying that, I turned around, not caring about the expressions on their faces. I limped my way out. Behind me, Cece stared at my indifferent back, her beautiful face slightly chilled. Late that night, Liu Cece finally came home. She washed up and crawled into bed, lying beside me, watching my back. She sighed and told me not to be angry, and asked me to stop targeting Yide. She said he really respected and liked me as an older brother. Yide told her he wanted to take the initiative to build a good relationship with me, so he'd be staying with us for a few days, and asked me not to bully him during this time. I kept my eyes shut and didn't answer. I just said calmly, "What if? What if Zhang Yide wasn't mute? Would you still treat him so well?" Liu Cece gently stroked my head, her voice hoarse. "He's my little brother. I'm good to him because he's Zhang Yide. It has nothing to do with whether he's mute or not." I gave a faint nod and muttered, "Anyway, there's only one day left. I just need to make it through one more day here." The next morning, I had just woken up when I heard sweet laughter from the second floor. I got out of bed and walked out. From a distance, I could see the lobby upstairs. Liu Cece was showing Zhang Yide how to arrange flowers. The two of them stood very close. Liu Cece gently explained to him how to trim the different kinds of flowers. Watching that tender scene between them, I felt a little dazed. When Cece was disabled, I worried she'd get bored. So for a time, I suggested she try flower arranging. She had an excellent memory. I only had to teach her once and she picked it up perfectly. Later, she had her assistant order flowers, and the first thing she'd do every morning was to arrange a bouquet and place it by my bedside. But ever since Zhang Yide returned to the country, she hadn't done that again. My lash drooped slightly, hiding the loneliness in my eyes. I didn't go upstairs. I headed to get some breakfast, but after just a few steps, a heavy vase came crashing down on me. With a loud thud, my skull split from the impact. A stream of blood flowed from the top of my head. The pain curled me up on the ground. In my daze, I saw Zhang Yide casually walk down from the second floor, smiling brightly. "Ups, brother. I just wanted to show you the flowers I just arranged. My hand slipped and it hit your head. What should I do? There's so much blood on your head." It looks really scary. Should I call an ambulance for you? But I'm so scared. I can't even pick up my phone. You're not going to blame me, right? Brother, just hold on a little longer. Before he even finished, I blacked out. Later, one of the maids saw me. She was so shocked. She rushed to send me to the hospital. When I woke up again, it was already noon. My head had been stitched with 30 full stitches. It looked absolutely horrifying. The doctor said I had a mild concussion, along with temporary blindness in my right eye. Liu Cixi stood by my hospital bed. She leaned over to ask if I was in pain and gently helped me sit up to drink some water. Her actions were still those of someone caring for me, but the words that slipped from her lips sided with Zhang Yide again. Yide knows he did wrong. He feels really guilty. He nearly fainted from shame just now. It's so embarrassing. A gossip reporter snapped a photo when we brought you to the hospital. Now everyone's waiting for you to clarify the truth. Feuding, when the time comes, just tell everyone that you hurt your head because you accidentally tripped. That way, the Zhang family will still owe you a favor. Alright, you already know. Zhang Yide is Wine. He once saved my life. I turned my back to her and pulled the blanket over my head, not sure whether it was the pain in my body or the ache in my heart. I sat beneath the blanket, my eyes growing red. I remembered when I used to be in poor health. There was a period when I often had low fevers. Liu Cixi hired 3 private doctors to watch over me in rotating shifts, 24 hours a day. When I had stomachaches, Liu Cixi would comfort me tenderly. She made sure I stayed in bed all day without needing to lift a finger. But now, the person before me was no longer the same. Liu Cixi noticed me on the hospital bed. When I quietly sniffled, her heart ached. She was just about to come comfort me when a nurse hurried in. Miss Liu, the young man who came with you this morning. He suddenly fainted from crying too hard. Do you want to go check on him? The moment she heard Zhang Yide had fainted from crying, Cixi forgot all about me and turned down the corridor at once. The hospital room fell silent again, leaving me completely alone. 10 minutes later, my phone buzzed. It was a message from Zhang Yide through Happiness Moments. Even if you had 30 stitches on your head, even if you lost sight in your right eye, I didn't even have to cry. He immediately went to find my father. I disappeared for years, then came back and said I wanted a child, and he agreed just like that. Tell me, how could he possibly not love me? Not long after, I received a video from Zhang Yide. In it, Liu Cixi was comforting a tearful Zhang Yide, her eyes red with heartache as she whispered gently, "Don't blame yourself. I told you I would always protect you." Feuding only hurt his head. It's not a serious issue. He won't tell anyone that you were the one who hit him. Just focus on getting better now. Don't worry about these little things. After watching the video, my fingers dug tightly into my palms. I forced myself to sit up despite the pain and left the hospital on my own. There were 6 hours left before my departure. I went to Lingshuan Temple and tore down the wish tag I had written by hand, the one where Liu Cixi had prayed for us to grow old together. The cold wind in the temple stung my skin. To wish tags Liu Cixi had written years ago blew into my hands. I picked them up and glanced at them. The first tag read, "Marry Feuding in 5 years and become his bride." The second one said, "As long as you come back. No matter what happens, I will choose you." I stared at the wish tags and let out a few cold laughs. Congratulations, Liu Cixi, you got everything you wanted. Soon after, I returned to the villa. My phone continued to buzz nonstop. More taunting messages from Zhang Yide. I only glanced at one, then sat down at my desk and slowly began writing a farewell letter. I placed a photo of wine inside the envelope, then grabbed my suitcase and headed downstairs. I took the engagement ring Liu Cixi had given him at the hospital proposal and placed it in a gray velvet box. handing it to the butler. I asked him to give it to her when she returned, and to let her know there was a letter for her waiting on the desk. The butler had seen me just moments ago, removing the engagement ring. He seemed to guess what was happening, and was stunned, asking, "Sir, are you really leaving? Thank you for everything these past years, Uncle Chen. If fate allows, perhaps we'll meet again someday." I waved him off, and dragged my suitcase to hail a cab for the airport. An hour later, at the airport entrance, my brother Chenzi reluctantly said goodbye. "Ating, once you leave, don't come back. Live well overseas, and never again have anything to do with that trash Liu Sisi." With reddened eyes, I embraced Chenzi tightly, and looked at this city under the pre-dawn sky. I lifted my chin slightly. "Goodbye, Dawn. Let us never meet again." The next day, Liu Sisi stayed the entire day in Zhang Yida's hospital room. She coaxed him to get his tests done. She coaxed him to take his medicine. Even though my hospital room was just one floor below, she didn't come to see me once. By evening, Zhang Yida insisted on being discharged. Sisi brought him back to the villa and patiently lulled him to sleep. When the butler saw her finally come downstairs, he handed her the gray velvet box, muttering with a dazed expression, "Sir came back yesterday and told me to give this to you." Liu Sisi took the gray box from his hands. Her face darkened. He was discharged. Wasn't he supposed to stay in the hospital to recover? What's he doing back home? Don't tell me he threw another fit. Didn't I already tell him? There's nothing between me and Yeater. I only see him as a younger brother. The gray velvet box was opened, and the engagement ring appeared right before Liu Sisi's eyes. She froze for a moment. The butler quietly reminded her beside her, "Sir also said he left a letter for you in the second-floor study." On the desk, Liu Sisi yanked at her tie, a strange anxiety stirring in her chest. She walked up the stairs toward the study. Sure enough, there was a letter on the desk. When the words "farewell" letter entered her sight, she had a terrible feeling. Once Sisi finished reading every word without missing a line, her mind exploded in a roar. A wave of panic unlike anything she had ever felt surged inside her. It was over. That day at the hospital, when Liu Qingqing spoke to me, she had overheard everything. The carefully crafted lie had been exposed. Flustered, Sisi tried to call me, but out of the corner of her eye, she suddenly spotted a photo on the desk. In it, a young man wore a red racing suit, casually lounging in the driver's seat of a race car. He had taken off his mask and was raising two fingers like a cigarette, grinning wildly at the camera. That was Wyan's face. So I was the one who saved him on the racetrack. I was the Wyan he had always wanted to repay. Impossible. Sisi's hand trembled as she dialed my number, but a cold automated voice quickly responded. "The number you have dialed has been deactivated. Unwilling to give up, Sisi sent me a message on WeChat, only to find that my account had been deleted too. She tried everything she could to reach me, but every attempt ended in vain. In the end, Liu Sisi had no choice but to call my brother, Chen Zi. After 3 calls were declined, the line finally connected. On the other end, Chen Zi was sitting in his living room, his show interrupted again and again. He sounded extremely annoyed. What does the great Miss Liu want now? Liu Sisi ignored his sarcasm and asked directly, was feuding Wyan? Was he really Wyan? Chen Zi let out a mocking laugh, as if looking at a joke named Liu Sisi. Don't tell me you're only realizing now that feuding was Wyan all along. Sisi frowned deeply. He never told me about any of this. Chen Zi almost burst out laughing in disbelief. All these years, you focused only on Zhang Yida. When did you ever truly care about feuding? Staring at the disconnected call, Sisi's expression was filled with panic. 12 years ago, Zhang Yida had approached him and confessed, claiming he was the Wyan he had been searching for. When Zhang Yida described the details of that day on the racetrack, and the fact they had known each other since childhood, It all just made sense. But from the moment I met Liu Sisi, even though she knew I loved racing, she never noticed I actually competed professionally. Thinking back carefully, he had been paralyzed for 5 years, and on the day the doctors declared his legs fully healed, he slowly stood up, held me tightly, and said with deep emotion, "Thank you for saving my life. If I hadn't taken care of her all these years, she might not have lived to see this day." Back then, I smiled beneath his feet. "And counting this time, I've saved your life twice." He wanted to ask more, but Zhang Yida's phone call interrupted his thoughts. The moment Liu Sisi realized she had been deceived for 12 whole years, she was nearly paralyzed by rage. She stormed across to the guest bedroom next door and shook Zhang Yida awake. Through his drowsy, confused gaze, Sisi threw the photo of Wyan straight into his face, gripping his delicate neck with her hand. "Zhang Yida, how dare you lie to me?" Just a second ago, Zhang Yida was still half asleep. But when he saw Liu Sisi standing over him in a fury, he seemed to realize something. Frantically, he grabbed the scattered photos on the bed. And when he got a good look, anger sparked in his teary eyes. His shock made him forget to mask his emotions. Impossible. How could a scumbag like feuding possibly be the great Wyan? Back then, Wyan was only 16 years old, but in the world of late-night street racing, he was already a top-tier legend. Liu Sisi leaned in close to Zhang Yida, her dark eyes blazing with fire. "I confirmed it myself. Feuding. And Wyan is feuding. Zhang Yida, you've made a complete fool of me." Back then, during the race, Wyan and he were in the same group. That day, Zhang Yida's car was sabotaged by an old enemy and caught fire. Wyan had been about to win first place, but he gave up $1 million yuan prize, turned around and risked everything to save him. After pulling him from the burning wreck, Wyan had arrogantly shouted from the stage, "I saved your life. You'd better repay the favor." He remembered that line for 12 years, but never imagined he'd been trying to repay the wrong person all along. At that moment, Liu Sisi shoved the stunned Zhang Yida aside with a cold expression, her voice sharp as ice. "Zhang Yida, you're moving back to the Zhang family estate today." She ignored Zhang Yida's pleading and ordered the butler to throw him out. Then she dialed her assistant with a grim look, her voice frostbitten. "Look into Zhang Yida's kidnapping and investigate the party from that day." At a certain airport, the plane landed. I took out a hat and put it on, the medical bandage still wrapped around my head. My father and mother were already waiting by the exit. Standing next to them was a woman I didn't recognize, dressed in a gray suit. She was strikingly beautiful. It had been a long time since we'd seen each other. "Son." Their gentle faces were glowing with joy they couldn't hide. They beamed with happiness. "Ating, let us introduce you. This is Suwanru." I studied my fiancée closely. The warm light spilled over her, outlining her delicate and refined features. Her lips were soft and tight. The corners of her mouth lifted in a faint smile. Yet there was an inexplicable distance in her eyes. "Hello, I'm feuding." I spoke softly. Suwanru's black eyes flickered. She sized me up from head to toe, her sharp gaze landing on the hat atop my head. Only after a long pause did Suwanru finally speak. "Your fiancé." An hour later, a black sedan slowly pulled up outside the Civil Affairs Bureau. Sue's father and mother were already waiting at the entrance. When Sue's mother saw me, she couldn't hide her satisfaction. The son-in-law her daughter had chosen, tall and upright, with clean, clear skin, far more handsome in person than in any photo. Clearly someone who'd been well-raised from a young age. The more she looked at me, the more pleased she became. "So," she generously took off the jade bracelet from her wrist. "Ating, this was given to me by Wanru's grandmother when I married Wanru's father. Now I'm passing it on to you." I could tell at a glance the jade bracelet was of exceptional quality. I felt a bit overwhelmed by the gesture. Just as I was about to refuse, Suwanru's lips trembled slightly. She softly said, "Mother is giving it as a token of her heart. Take it, only then will I feel at ease accepting it." Uncle spoke up from the side. "I had my secretary transfer a portion. The losing shares are now under your name." When Uncle Su said this, his tone was calm and composed, so calm it sounded as if he were merely transferring 10,000 yuan. But I knew very well the true value of Su family's shares. Right now, the Su family was growing rapidly in power, a true standout in the business world. These shares were far more valuable than the jade bracelet. "Thank you, Uncle." An's eyes turned slightly red, clearly moved. Receiving two grand gifts the first time we met made it obvious how much the Su family valued me. I remembered back then Liu's mother had also given me a bathroom bracelet, but I knew very well that was the result of taking care of the disabled Liu Cece for 5 whole years. In recent years, the Liu family had gradually declined. Her parents always felt I didn't quite measure up. They had even privately said they hoped Liu Cece would marry the eldest son of the Gu family to secure her position. "Let's go, we should register our marriage," Suwanru reminded me gently. Alright, I followed her into the Civil Affairs Bureau to get the license. Just over 10 minutes later, it was all settled. I looked down at the marriage certificate in my hands, feeling strangely detached for a few seconds. Suwanru looked for something beside me. "I bought a villa in the city as our wedding home. I just sent you the address and the code for the front gate. Everything was already sent to your phone. The property deed for that villa only has your name on it, since you just got back. For these next 3 days, stay at your parents' home first. As for the wedding, it'll be held in about 2 weeks. We're still discussing how to decorate it." At the same time, in the early hours of the morning, an assistant at Liu Group brought an invitation and placed it in front of Liu Cece. "Miss Liu, the issue with Miss Zhang is still under investigation. This is the wedding invitation just delivered by the Su family. The Su family has a deep connection with Miss Cece. They didn't forget to send one to her as well." She picked up the invitation and glanced at the groom's name. The bride was Su Wanru, of course. But when she saw the groom's name, her heart started to race. Just then, I opened my phone. Sure enough, Su Wanru had sent me the villa's address and entry code. This woman was even more thoughtful than I expected. She had even considered letting me stay with my parents for a few days. Looking at her elegant figure before me, for the first time, I felt that this impulsive marriage might actually have been a good decision. Both families sat down for a lunch together. The atmosphere was exceptionally warm and pleasant. It wasn't until the afternoon that we parted ways. By evening, my father and mother had prepared a full table of dishes together. It had been a long time since the 3 of us were gathered again as a family. Father was especially joyful tonight. He drank a lot of wine and became more talkative than usual. We actually share quite a bit of fate with the Su family. At first, we didn't know them very well, but in the past few years, they've helped us out, both openly and behind the scenes. If it hadn't been for their support, our family wouldn't have made it this far. I was a little surprised that the Su family had been quietly helping us all this time. 3 days passed quickly. On the afternoon of the 4th day, Suwanru came to pick me up. I was reluctant to say goodbye to my parents. They looked towards Suwanru in the distance, and father quietly squeezed my hand, saying, "I can tell that girl Wanru really likes you. Give this relationship a real chance." I lowered my gaze and looked at Su Wanru standing by the car. And for some reason, I couldn't shake the feeling that she didn't really like me. The car remained silent throughout the ride. Neither of us said a word, till the car finally stopped in front of the hospital. I tilted my head in confusion and asked if she was sick. Suwanru's gaze landed on the oversized hat I was wearing. "It's not me who's hurt. Let's get you checked at the hospital first, then we'll go home. I was momentarily stunned. A warmth filled my chest, and yet I couldn't help but feel curious. How did you know I had an injury on my head? I had hidden it quite well these past 3 days. Even my parents hadn't noticed anything wrong with my head. Suwanru tilted her head slightly. Her slender fingers tapped lightly on the steering wheel. Her deep eyes settled on my pale face. She guessed it back when she came to pick me up from the airport. I had dressed myself neatly and carefully. Every piece matched in soft, elegant tones. It was obvious I cared about my appearance. But the hat was oddly oversized, big enough to cover the top of my head entirely, and clearly clashed with the rest of my outfit. Later, when I got into the car, my head had lightly bumped the door. Ordinarily, such a light bump shouldn't have hurt much, but she noticed the way I gasped through my teeth in pain, as if I couldn't bear it. My eyes widened in surprise, a bit in disbelief. Suwanru, you really are obsessed with details. At the private hospital's top floor, the doctor was already waiting for us. He looked at me curiously as I followed behind Suwanru, and couldn't help complaining as he saw her. You made me wait here since early morning, and now you finally show up. Wait, is this the man you've been thinking about day and night? Suwanru didn't even bother to interrupt him. She simply said, my husband, Fu Ting, and the doctor immediately shut his mouth. He performed a full physical exam on me. Following